Students have been highlighting textbooks for decades. Often they highlight too much.
So the book I bought was this big. By the end of my freshman year, it was this big from highlighting.
Zach and many other students now highlight less and learn more. How? Look around campus and you'll see students with a book in one hand and a pen in the other, writing notes in the margin of the textbook and paraphrasing the material in a separate notebook.
Usually don't do the highlighter. One of my professors this year has told us to drop the highlighter and push the pencil.
When I'm reading textbooks for class, I usually keep notes and a rough outline.
I usually write notes in a separate notebook, just because I find like that writing, I don't know what it does, it helps me somehow.
Just reading through it, you learn, but it doesn't imprint itself as firmly as if you're doing something like taking notes.
The process of taking such notes is called annotation, and it's one of the study skills Tammy Jo Eckert teaches at Indiana University.
Annotation is part of active learning. And for too long, we've asked students to be passive learners. That's really what highlighting is. You're just sort of reading along, and you start highlighting things that you think are important. But honestly, how do you know what's important until you're done with a section or a chapter? Until you see the whole context, how can you possibly know?
The biggest problem that I found is kids like to highlight. So they go through and they highlight what they think is important, first read, and then when it comes time to study, they go back and only look at their highlights. So they've made a decision as to what's important prior to the lecture and the discussion. And they go back and only look at what they originally determined was important. And in a lot of cases, it just wasn't.
Anybody can highlight. Annotation takes more effort. You have to learn how to do it. And that's just what Mike McLeod teaches in his University 101 class at Clemson University.
We try to get them to take notes, outline as they read, and then paraphrase the material after they've outlined it.
So when you're annotating, you can write like little questions that come into your mind, and then you can go back and highlight the text. But asking the questions is getting actively involved. And there have been many studies that indicate the more active you are, the better you learn.
Something else to do? Mark up the text any way necessary to help you organize the material.
I've mentioned to my students, sometimes you need to draw arrows. You need to list things out. Because the text might say, I'm going to discuss the 6 reasons for doing this, or the 6 reasons why this group of people did this. But they don't necessarily say this is the first, this second, this third, this fourth. And you can get lost. So if you're annotating, it helps you clarify what's being said and helps you put together all the different pieces.
If this seems like extra work, it is, at first.
At the beginning, they recognize this takes a lot of time up front. But when they go through, they recognize I don't need to go back and reread anything other than my annotations.
So by annotating, you put in more time in the beginning, less time later on. Overall, you'll learn more in less time compared to highlighting. That's what research has shown.
And they find that annotation over the long run in preparation for the tests, it takes less time and the students get better scores. They resist it to begin with, and at the end they'll say, I can't believe how much this has helped me, and I'm using it in my other classes.
I could look down and the whole page is highlighted. So if I write it, I kind of summarize it better, I guess, than I look down and the whole page is yellow. You know, like that doesn't help me.
Annotation is probably a new skill for you, but one worth learning. Basically, highlight less, write more, think more. Write questions in the margins of the textbook. Write notes in a separate notebook.